From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm Vasilios. That is Sean Fazan. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, and review. You can find us wherever you listen to and watch your podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that little bell button right there. You'll get notified whenever we upload a new podcast. Sean Fazan, we are into our second week of Saints training camp.
Yeah.
How did today go specifically?
Yeah, well, first off, it's the end of July. First 5 practices in. Yeah, it's 22 practices total, so we're not quite, I guess, I'm doing the math. That's almost a quarter. I don't know if you have a first official quarter, but I feel like it's a good time to really kind of check in on where the Saints stand, because we got we got enough data now, right? We got some data that's compiled, and we were able to, watch a few things and see a few things emerge. As for today specifically, first day in pads, it was hot again. When you combine those two, pads and heat, it could make for some tough conditions. The good thing is no one had any heat-related issues. The bad thing is the Saints lost an offensive lineman. Andres Pete left early with a quad injury. Could be a strain, could be a pull. Doesn't seem like it's as serious as Trey Turner, who is now out for the season in IR. But that is something to certainly monitor going forward. And I'll explain that a little bit later in the podcast. But that was the injury of note on the field. Look, it's been lively, and it stayed that way today. They had one-on-ones for the first time today. Paulson Adebo opened it up early in the one-on-ones with an interception off of a deflected pass from Winston to Michael Thomas. He had a PBU on a throw to Taysom Hill. I believe it was Derek Carr who threw that ball to Taysom Hill. Carr connected with Michael Thomas. That was another big throw to, I think it was Jake Haener to Rashid Shaheed. So that drill is geared, and Dennis Allen even talked about it. It's geared toward the offense because it's a whole field and it's one-on-one. And for the most part, the offense won. But I thought the defense made some nice plays. It was simultaneous with that and some inside run drills, so I was kind of watching both. So I didn't get a chance to watch every single play. But nonetheless, I was able to watch most of it. And for the most part, that was a pretty lively period. Team period-wise, look, Michael Thomas and Derek Carr connected 3 times today. 2 on the first team period, 1 on a kind of a little sit-down route, 1 on a slant. He beat Paulson Adebo along the inside. And then we had a throw from Jameis Winston to Jimmy Graham. And this was one of those, now things have gotten physical because – and it's a good thing because it was one of those little bootlegs where the tight end kind of cracks down and then kicks back out in that little short flat area. They hit Jimmy Graham. Graham's out in the open, and he comes face to face with I believe it was Troy Pride, the very small DB, and they kind of collide and they get up, kind of jawing back and forth. And look, that was a good moment. It was the first real we're in pads now kind of feeling throughout camp, and it certainly was something to really watch. And it was something to watch because honestly, after Jimmy signed, we'll get into him a little bit later. That was really his first big moment of camp so far. But Kendre Miller had a nice run up the middle. I thought Marshawn Lattimore continues his stellar camp. He had a PBU on a Carr pass to Michael Thomas. He broke that up at the end on the final team period.
He's been doing that pretty consistently.
Yeah, he's been good, man. He's been good when it came to that. He looks focused and dialed in. And sometimes with him, when it's practice, he's not always stimulated or not always all in because he's a gamer type. But I think that's been good to see. But the play of the day, back to the rookie, man. Back to the rookie, Jake Haener, a 9-route bomb to Rashid Shaheed. Crowd went nuts. He had that, kind of look. Yeah, Shaheed. I didn't write down who he beat, but it was a beautiful play. So it really was a pretty lively practice. A little shorter today, an hour and 45 minutes. Only 2 team periods in that one-on-one drill. I'm sure they'll expand and go to 2 hours on Tuesday. Will Lutz had a good day as well. Connected on all 8 of his field goals, but 3 from 52, 56, and 59 to close out the day. So. Wow. All in all, a quality day, and they're just stacking these days up here out at Saints Camp. So a decent day 5 of work out on Airline Drive.
So you gave us a little bit of a glimpse on some sights and sounds from practice, and I'm I'm kind of curious now, aside from the physical stuff, what's the vibe like? Kind of like what's the energy like? As you mentioned, this is the first day in full pads.
Yeah, I'm trying to put this into its proper context because you have a sense about a team going into camp, and then you watch one practice, then two practices, and sometimes what you have, preconceived, that can kind of be a little bit of a bias, and you got to see what the real team's doing. But in this case, it's not. In this case, they put off a confident, comfortable vibe when they left the offseason program, and I've still seen it. It's almost like this team collectively understands they have a golden opportunity ahead of them because of the roster they have, the division they play in, and the conference that they play in is a very real, tangible opportunity to get back on track. And there is a collective focus that I didn't see a year ago. There's a uptick in energy that I didn't see a year ago. There's I've said this before, I'll say it again, an uptick in confidence from the head coach that certainly I did not see a year ago. And there hasn't been any foolishness. There hasn't been any, kind of sloppy effort plays or any kind of, drawing back and forth or any kind of fights or anything like that. That could certainly come. It happens in training camp, every single one. No training camp is immune to that. But it just feels like the entire team is focused on the task at hand. And, the theme has been competition. And I think that's certainly shown up. And, you hear from other guys that haven't done camps here and they've been with other teams and they're talking about how competitive it is. I think that carries some weight when you kind of put together the entire picture of the first 5 practices of Saints camp. And hopefully, and you would think, this carries over. I mean, there's no use in stopping it now at the end of July. I mean, you got to carry this thing through. So overall, for me, I have enjoyed it because it just feels very focused, very confident, very lively. And it's just like, let's get the task at hand done because we have a real opportunity. And to me, I think that's a good sign for this team.
Derek Carr, what's been your first impressions of him through this official training camp?
I thought practice 4, number 4, was his best. Not today's practice. I thought the 4th practice, the one right before the off day, the Saturday practice, was his best in terms of seeing the field, chunk plays. What I see from Derek Carr is a guy that has he is very attention to detail is there. You can tell it's almost as if every single skilled player you can almost spot at some point in camp he has had an off to the side conversation with in terms of how do you want this, how do you want that, and you see him kind of demonstrating the route or where the ball. I think today it was him and Alvin Kamara on a little choice right out of the backfield. It was almost like, well, where do you want it? Do you want it right here? Do you want it in the middle? Like, you could see them talking it out.
Yeah.
So that's certainly good. I think he's even mentioned this. I think the presence of a very good secondary has really upped the intensity and focus because it has to for Derek Carr. I think, there's some times he's dropping back and there's a little bit of, I don't know if you call it surprise, but okay, yeah, these guys are there. The windows aren't as tight. The windows aren't as open. I gotta be on my game, which to me is only a positive. It can only be a positive that you're already in July, the end of July, focusing in on, okay, the finite details of dropping back and throwing the ball in practice. To me, that's certainly good. And I will continue to say he's miles ahead of where I thought he would be in terms of knowing the system, knowing the language, knowing the terminology. There's no confusion. There's no, I should have did this, I should have did that. He's already got that down. So he hasn't necessarily had like the take over the practice yet. But I think he has demonstrated the growth that they were hoping to see at that quarterback position.
You talked about Derek Carr kind of going through certain technical details with receivers and other guys. One of those guys that we've seen, Michael Thomas. What do you see from 13 so far? I know I heard Coach Dennis Allen talking about how they're still going through that kind of ramp up with him today. I mean, he's only played 10 games over the last 3 years. What's going on with MT?
He looks healthy to me. And to me, that's the most important thing. Because for someone like him to be healthy, it looks pretty similar to what it looked like before he was injured. He was never going to be a burner. He always got got separation through physicality, detailed route running, and incredibly strong hands. And you can't have that if you're not healthy. You can't fake it. He looks healthy to me. Now, I'm sure if you ask him, he would say, there's even another spot he can get to in terms of the level of play. But I have enjoyed what I've seen from where he's at. I mean, you're seeing first-level routes, second-level routes. He had, like I said today, he had 3 catches from Carr today. He had a middle-of-the-field dig route from Jameis a couple of days ago. So to me, it's all football reps now. It's not, is he still recovering from the injury? I think that part, we can check that box.
Sure.
He's healthy, and he's back to fine-tuning things on the field, getting on the same page with his quarterback. And, again, I think that's certainly a good thing. And I think turning that corner really was a relief to everyone. Derek Carr even said as much, first day of camp, because the conversation around him was so much about non-football. To have it back to being football, to me, is a good thing.
So let's stay on that offense. And you mentioned his name earlier, and Jimmy Graham. What have you seen so far? I know we were out there on Friday, and we kind of saw that he was primarily working as a blocker. Has anything changed since Friday?
He had that catch today. This was his biggest moment today. That little, like I described earlier, fake the block and kind of sneak back out into the flat. That was his biggest moment so far. And I think his presence certainly makes a difference. For that moment, you saw the, I'm here kind of thing with the DB. On the field, he's getting his reps in. He's making certain plays here and there. He hasn't had the big-time play yet other than today.
Sure.
I think I would love to see where Jimmy Graham is when they go to red zone. Can he still be that guy in the red zone? Because to me, that's where he's going to make his most impact on this team.
I sure hope so. I mean, dude, being as tall as you are, I hope you get
6'7", 2, whatever he is, 60, 65, whatever he is.
Tallest dude on the field.
Yeah. To me, that's where he's going to make the most difference on the field, and that hasn't come up yet in practice. So it's more of a presence thing in the locker room. He was very open and honest in his media availability on Saturday. Talked about the journey, talked about the first time getting traded, talked about coming back, talked about what he can do, what he can't do, how he changed his body. He's definitely leaner now.
Looks leaner for sure.
And that's by design. So, again, I stand by my original statement. A, he's making the team. And B, he's not 2011 Jimmy Graham. And C, I still think he can be a red zone target and a locker room leader guy, leadership type guy that I think when you have a successful season, you have these types of players, and I think certainly Jimmy Graham can be that kind of guy.
All right, so let's talk about some of the competitions that we've discussed ad nauseum throughout this podcast. Why don't we start with left tackle? I know Trevor Penning's missed a day here and there, kind of nursing that foot. I think it was more precautionary.
And from what I understand, he could have practiced. That was the medical staff being overly cautious, from what I understand.
Totally understand that,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But this competition has taken a little different turn than I thought, because it's not exactly Penning versus Hurst. It is, but it's Penning versus Hurst, but it's also Hurst and Andrus Peat, because they're splitting reps where in between the first team period of a team session, the first 2 snaps will be Penning at left tackle, Hurst at left guard.
Yeah.
And then 2 plays later, Penning kicks out, Hurst goes out to the left tackle, and Peat comes in. And sometimes they'll vice versa that. They'll flip that where it's Peat first, then Hurst. But it's 3 guys, 2 positions. Mm-hmm. So, and Hurst is the swing guy. He spoke today. He is really good at kind of explaining stuff. He reminds me a lot of Streif with the way he kind of breaks stuff down.
Just very technical.
He's just really good to talk to about certain things.
Yeah.
And he said it's pretty seamless for him to go guard to tackle, tackle to guard. What really gets him is if he has to go left to right.
Yeah.
I asked him about that today. But that was not something I was expecting, was this sort of thing that maybe the best possible combination is Penning and Hurst. And then you have McCoy, Ruiz, and Ruiz is splitting first-team reps with Throckmorton, but I think that's a little bit of injury stuff, and obviously Ramczyk at right tackle. Or Peat could win the job, and Hurst goes back to the swing tackle or swing, Senio Kelemete role,
sure,
and Penning wins the left tackle spot, or Hurst could beat out Penning. Feels like to me, based off first reps, first team, the first rep of first team in every team period, when he's available, it's been going to Penning.
Yeah.
So it feels like to me, Penning's in the lead right now.
With the Hurst thing too, I'm wondering if, and I hate to say it, maybe they spent so much time without Pete over the last couple seasons. Maybe they're just trying to have
absolutely
Hurst ready to
just crawl. Yeah, he kind of alluded to that today.
Yeah. So all right. So let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Let's go cornerback. That number 2 spot between Adebo and Alontae Taylor. Anything changed there?
Adebo had an active day today, and they've been rotating every day. One practice, one person is the first team guy. Another practice, the next person is the first team guy. Today was Adebo's turn. He was lively. The ball just hadn't been thrown his way much in the earlier practice, at least not what I've been able to see. And he got the pick in the one-on-ones. He had a PBU. He had some moments. He got beat as well. And then he's playing Alontae Taylor on the outside. Again, so right now it would be 3 practices with the first team for Adebo, 2 for Alontae Taylor. You ask people outside, they feel like the momentum's heading in Alontae Taylor's direction, but until I see it, until I feel it, until I hear anything different, I got to think the incumbent's is in the lead right now. But that's just for right now. That could definitely change.
Seniority too,
He got a little more experience, and we'll just see. Alontae's been around the ball as well. I mean, that's a great competition right now. I don't even want to call Adebo the leader. I want to say they're pretty even, but I'm just erring on the side of, the guy that did it last year is back, so all things being equal, he would do it again.
Sure.
But they may not see it that way. It's been a great competition.
All right, and staying on the defensive end, we still got a lot of moving parts when it comes to Isaiah Foskey, Peyton Turner, Carl Granderson.
Well, let me go ahead and jump in there because I don't think Foskey's in the mix right now. He's got mostly third-team reps. Every now and then he'll rotate in with the 2s. But for the most part, it's been Granderson and Turner. And today, I have to check my notes, but I believe the first team period, Granderson was in, but the second team period, Turner was in with the first team. So they actually rotated period to period. That's pretty good competition right now. Granderson would have had a sack today. He came in untouched on a throw Derek Carr made. It looked like he beat Foster Moreau, but he was so untouched, it almost felt like there was a blocking assignment missed somewhere. That's a couple times that's happened with Carl Granderson. He's gotten the majority of the reps at the first team. Turner's rotating in. I think both those guys, because you can, with D linemen, especially in today's pass-happy league, you can figure out a way to get both those guys on the field at the same time, if that is indeed your best combination.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm still leaning towards Carl Granderson, although I think Peyton Turner's had a pretty good camp as well. He's healthy. He looks quick and strong.
He's driven, for sure.
He certainly sounds driven. So, again, another good competition. You're starting to hear it up
that's
again.
The key word.
That's the name of the game. I've enjoyed that competition. Today was the first day in pads. Granderson got first crack with the first team in the first team period. And obviously, like I said, Turner got the next crack with the first team during the second team period. I think both guys have had their moments there.
You mentioned Will Lutz earlier towards the end of practice. Is there any actual competition there? Or is it just his?
The more I watch it, the more I think it was there to push him. He took the pay cut to return.
Sure.
So if he's taking a pay cut, that means it was take this pay cut or we're probably going to release you. That's how close it got. That's always been the experience I've heard about when it comes to guys, veterans, taking pay cuts. I think he understood last year was not a good year. But today was a fantastic day for him. 8 for 8, 52, 56, and 59 to close out practice. And Group A I think he's been perfect at camp.
He's probably going to latch on someone else.
He's got an NFL leg. But, again, all things being equal, and look, unless Lutz bombs the preseason, I still think when the games start, they're going to trust the guy that's done it before at this level, and that guy for them has been Will Lutz. If you take last year out the equation, Will Lutz has been phenomenal for the Saints during his tenure here. And the year he missed, they really missed him. And last year
I remember
was not a great year. But I'm confident in saying I think Will Lutz is in the lead at the kicker position.
All right. So, any training camp heroes so far? Any guys that you think are making the name for themselves right now that might make a push for the 53 man towards the end of the preseason?
Okay, I'm gonna. there are a couple guys that I've got my eye on. Just watching, seeing what they do. The guy I didn't have any clue going in, and he's made some plays now, is Isaac Yiadom. He's a veteran. Yeah. I just didn't know much about him, but he showed up now. A couple PBUs. He seems to always be around the ball, making the most of his opportunity with his reps. He had another one today. So that's a guy that was not on my radar that is now firmly on my radar. In fact, when we do our Wednesday pod, I'm going to do my next roster projection on this podcast. He may be on it.
He's a pretty
star of camp. I'm going to say Rashid Shaheed's had a good camp.
Yeah.
Lattimore's had a really good camp.
22
people seem to be sleeping on, not sleeping, but have almost like a shoulder shrug. Okay, kind of casual. Maybe it's the presence of Michael Thomas. Maybe it's the Rashid Shaheed thing. But Chris Olave has been great. And there's almost a casual kind of whatever about his season last year. He was fantastic last year.
Is it because they expected or what?
I don't know. Hit over 1,000 yards last year. It doesn't happen that very often with rookie receivers, especially last year in the NFL.
And Dalton is your quarterback from
look at the history of this franchise in terms of rookie receivers going over 1,000 yards. He was fantastic last year, and I think he has been on the money, consistent. He had a little catch today from Derek Carr. It looked like a choice route because somehow he got hooked up on Pete Werner in coverage. And I think Pete Werner is a great player, but that's a mismatch. And he was able to catch it and run. One of the things they wanted him to work on was run after catch. He had a nice run after catch. Looks like he bulked up a little bit. I don't know what he's at now. He said it a couple days ago in his interview. I just wasn't there. He's been fantastic as well. So I think all in all, it's been those guys have really stood out so far. Shaheed, Lattimore, Olave, and then the guy that, like I said before, wasn't on my radar that is now, to me, is Isaac Yiadom.
5 days in, any genuine surprises for you?
Yes, there's a couple. I'm not surprised that he's had a few moments, but Jake Haener belongs. The 4th round pick belongs, and I didn't want to say it after practice 1 with jerseys on. I didn't want to say it after practice 2 with jerseys on. I didn't want to get into it because he's going against the 3rd team. But this is now every single day of practice. He has made a play. And today was his exclamation point. And he's got this, I'm here, I belong here body language that we did not see from the previous 2 quarterbacks this team drafted in Ian Book and Garrett Grayson. Their rookie year, their rookie training camp. He sees the field well. He's accurate. When I asked Dennis Allen about it, he used the word moxie. You can feel it. You can see it. And after he made that play, he was, he was pretty demonstrative in his excitement. Coaches all high-fived him. Derek Carr, Jameis Winston did the same thing. Jake Haener has had a camp. I mean, I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. I'm just going to say through the first quarter of camp against the Saints' 3rd team, I think Jake Haener has proven that he belongs in NFL training camp right now. Who knows what could happen beyond that?
All right, I think that's all of our topics for today.
Yeah, I think we're good with that. It's been a good start to camp, and like I said, next Wednesday or 2 days from now, Wednesday. We'll have my latest roster projection here with the New Orleans Saints. So that should be pretty fun.
I believe Friday too. We're going to try to do it our show from the facility.
We'll see if we can get out there. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. For Sean Fazan, I'm Vasilios. We'll catch you guys next time.